Okay. Wow. Just wow. So, I originally wasn't even thinking of this as a video, let alone doing one, and don't expect these kind of videos to be a thing, if at all. I don't do video essays. I focus mostly on crossbreeding skit reviews with fan films. A pure example being my review of the first Inuyasha movie coming out this Friday, which I'd highly recommend watching. I put a lot of time and effort making those kind of videos. However, I think I need to break out of my shell a little bit, like Gamera, or in my own personal views, Picodon from the most adorable kaiju movie of all time. And just have my say in my current thought process on the last 24 hours. As of this writing, I've lacked sleep, and after posting my reaction video, which thank you all for watching by the way, I'm actually writing as I'm in bed early to wake up the same. I am literally writing this as I am in bed. On my phone. Because I just need to speak my mind, and it's just something I want to do. I'm still very tired. Now that I have had time to rest and process the adrenaline we've all had today regarding that trailer, my mind is a little more clear and I'm much more rested to record this. So, I have so far for the last 7 years been enjoying this current era and resurgence, no pun intended, of Godzilla and giant monster movies, starting in 2014 with Gareth Edwards' Godzilla being a well-shot, well-acted, suspense in all the right areas monster movie and actually has Godzilla in it after that thing happened.
That's a lot of fish.
Which, side note, I know a lot of fans are still bitter about, and despite my enjoyment of it being a non-Godzilla monster movie, you do know looking back that this was doomed to fail because it was the 90s, right? That doesn't take away from all the childhood goodness out of my heart that decade, but if you were asking for a big-budget, dark and gloomy, serious Godzilla film in the 90s outside of Japan and the Heisei films, and it not being a one-liner inducing, market-whoring merchandising machine in name only, most would look at you like, you stupid. I mean, they tried with the cancelled Godzilla vs. the Griffin with the amazing design by the late Stan Winston of Jurassic Park fame, but good luck telling Hollywood to make that kind of movie back then. You stupid fool! Side note, Terry Rossio, love him or hate him, wrote the Godzilla vs. Griffin script and is a writer on Godzilla vs. Kong, more of a reason to be pumped up.
Why, the whole world will pay to see this!
But looking back on the recent films, to be honest, despite my enjoyment at the time and the adrenaline coming out of the theater with Gareth Edwards' take, I gotta say over time, Godzilla 2014 has been one of my least favorite films in the series. That's not to say it's a bad movie. It's not, and I respect and appreciate the pun-intended butterfly effect it's brought us now in historical context. I'm glad it did well and we have the sheer utter awesomeness we're getting in less than 2 months because of it. However, in retrospect, the film did one thing that has been very unforgivable, mostly in its marketing. Looking back on the early trailers, and even that rare pre-production Comic-Con trailer, the film was looking to be a big-budget remake of the original 1954 Gojira with the additional monster for Godzilla to fight, or to the extent a big-budget remake of the original 1954 film's Americanized re-edit, Godzilla King of the Monsters, no not that one, with Bryan Cranston fresh off of Breaking Bad as the Raymond Burr character, i.e. Steve Martin as a paranoid, tragic character to lead the first film in the franchise and occasionally return for more sequels as sort of a wise sage with Dr. Serizawa, akin to Raymond Burr returning in Godzilla 1985.
Nature has a way sometimes of reminding man of just how small he is, to remind us of how puny we really are in the face of a tornado, an earthquake, or a Godzilla. For now, Godzilla, that strangely innocent and tragic monster, has gone to Earth. The things he has taught us remain.
But with all that said, the marketing straight up lied to us. This wasn't a $200 million remake of Gojira and would not focus on the moral lesson and consequences of nuclear weapons. This was more of a $200 million remake of a late 70s era Showa Godzilla movie with a dash of Christopher Nolan. It's also a film of its time, i.e. that era of what I call the Nolan wave, in thanks to The Dark Knight, where movies were grounded in dark, moody realism with limited imagination. But to Gareth's credit, if Godzilla 2014 borrows any sense of a blockbuster mood, the film is less a remake of Gojira and more of a remake of Jaws. I mean, think about it. It holds on the monster until halfway through the movie, the film relies on primal fear, tension, and not to mention it's so dark and unwatchable, you can't watch the fun fights properly without screen burning your TV with the brightness.
I can't see a bloody thing.
Oh yeah, and did I mention the main characters are named Brody if the Jaws parallels weren't enough? I keep expecting Hooper and Quint to show up.
They're all gonna die.
So yeah, looking back, this movie was a major lie and letdown, and if I'm going to be straightforward and a minority, I am not a fan of Godzilla being a hero or even an anti-hero in the vein of the Showa era in his first big-budget Hollywood reboot. Plus, I'm kind of picky on the majority of the Showa era's films I like, and I think the gap of films I enjoy the less are the bridge between Son of Godzilla and Godzilla vs. Hedorah. But when it comes to the current era, which I know has a name, and I'm just gonna call it the Legendary Era for the time being, despite the design and getting Godzilla right, going for the hero role isn't my Godzilla. My Godzilla has always been a dominant force of destruction. People are just in the way. Godzilla moves into the mainland for his throne, fights other monsters for the throne, and it's all just a big, dark, and allegorical punishment for humanity, literally taking the words from Arnold Schwarzenegger in Terminator 2.
We're not gonna make it, are we?
It's in your nature to destroy yourselves.
Yeah.
In short, in terms of the legendary films I do like, if 2014 did not give me my Godzilla, then 2 years later in 2016, they did give me my Godzilla. Moving on, and not to take too much time, 2016's Shin Godzilla, directed by the guys who did Evangelion, is what I really wanted in the 2014 film. Not dark and moody like Batman, but dark and moody for its allegory for which Godzilla is mankind's punishment for the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, using a giant dinosaur resulting in the same toxic spill that did in that goon in RoboCop, this time being a current up-to-date remake of the original Gojira, but rather than using the atomic bombs in his mutated creation is updated and subtly suggested being created from the Fukushima nuclear power plant from the 2011 earthquake and tsunami. It's also probably the most realistic of the series, focusing on the political, financial, and world debates on what if a giant radioactive fish dinosaur thing evolving like a Pokemon attacked the mainlands, creating a gloomy despair akin to the original or even that of films like Akira. Needless to say, over time, it's one of my personal favorites, and I applaud the Evangelion filmmakers for its direction, cinematography, and use of CGI and practical models and effects to make it look like a modern version of a classic Suitmation kaiju film, which sadly is becoming a lost art. And aside from the terribly critical anime trilogy, which I haven't watched, the upcoming anime series, which I do want to watch, and the potential interest in Toho doing another lineup of Godzilla films akin to the Heisei era, if you're gonna go with a Showa era style Godzilla film in modern Hollywood, you should do so with the sequel, and 2019's Godzilla King of the Monsters delivered so and then some. Despite the critical my disappointment with the box office returns and audience's enthusiasms, Mike Dougherty's finally, after 20 years since the '98 disaster, in name gave us an actual big-budget Hollywood Godzilla movie with heart-racing action, Mothra, Rodan, King Ghidorah, and Akira Ifukube's score all in one amazing package, with a promising stinger to the rematch 60 years in the making with 2021's upcoming hype-inducing follow-up and 2017's Skull Island adventure, which every one of you should watch my review on, with Adam Wingard's Godzilla vs. Kong. Considering the current world environment and utter starvation for escapism and entertainment, I can safely say that Godzilla vs. Kong is coming out at exactly the right time. I know a lot of people were upset by the delays and issues with the production, as well as the film's box office competition. However, with the current need for more content and a lot of audiences sick of the oversaturation of comic book superhero movies, this film will deliver not only another amazing entry in the franchise for both characters, but something corporate Hollywood has missed the boat on. Just a pure, fun ride at the movies. Adam Wingard had a few missteps, but this looks like a movie right up his alley, and feels like those Sci-Fi Channel original movies, i.e. The Asylum, who for the record in my books makes the worst movies of all time, but with a $200 million budget, consistency and continuity, and looks like everyone involved walked onto the set having a good time. Rarely in recent years has Hollywood delivered films with just pure spectacle, escapism, and just plain fun. They've mostly been dark, gloomy, and downright political, making them a product of their time and will eventually become outdated. The only examples in recent years of fun times at the movies were The Avengers in 2012 and 2019, Jurassic World, and yeah, despite the rest of the trilogy, let's put The Force Awakens in there. But now, here we are in 2021. The toxic political environment is fading out, the virus is getting fixed, and coming up on almost its 60th anniversary since their first and only battle, this rematch has been worth the wait and the time to put together. And how appropriate with the positive outcome, since the original film from 1962 was a critical praise and is still considered the highest grossing Godzilla film to date. So yeah, needless to say, Godzilla vs. Kong is my #1 most anticipated movie of the year, and it just looks like damn good entertainment. Despite the great discussions, no matter what your nitpicky opinions are, and even if it's not a perfect movie, just pay your ticket, grab a big bucket of buttered popcorn, soda, candy bar, maybe even some pot if you see it in IMAX 3D, and quite simply, enjoy the show. It's good to see Hollywood going back to taking some creative chances, letting the next generation of filmmakers take on a big franchise, and quite frankly, whether you're watching on the big screen or on HBO Max, the simple moral of the story is, kids, let's just have some fun. But of course, guys, let me know in the comments what you think of Godzilla vs. Kong. Support our Patreon, like this video, click that notification, hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you guys later. This is BigJackFilms signing off, and don't expect these kind of videos, if at all. Maybe. I don't know. I just did this out of pure boredom. Bye.